What's up, Warriors fans? It's your main man, Max, here from Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button if you like what you hear, because I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, it's been an interesting weekend in Dub Nation, not only because of what the Warriors have been, talking about, but what other teams have been doing as well. But to start off, I keep hearing these debates about, D'Anthony Melton or Seth Curry. And while I do like Melton, I like what he brought to the team last year before he was traded, I don't think he is going to be the perfect fit in the sense that Seth Curry is going to be. Now with Melton, you're getting a guy who's been with the offense, I guess more recently than Seth Curry, since Seth hasn't been with the team in over 10 years. But the biggest problem is you're getting a guy who's coming off of injury, and I'm not sure how that's going to meld with the team moving forward. Yes, he's going to have lingering injury issues that's going to keep him off the floor. And I look at that and I'm like, do you really want to bring in a guy who might not even play 65 games next season? Yeah, he's a decent three-point shooter, but is it really worth it? I don't really think so. I think it's better to bring in a guy you know than a guy who's been here for I guess, more recently to, fill out the roster. And with Seth Curry, you're not only bringing a guy who can hit it nonstop from downtown, who's a lethal three-point shooter, but you're also bringing a guy who brings instant chemistry to the team. Now, we all know Seth is Steph's brother, and they all go together like peanut butter and jelly. So they are going to be a great combination. And I think the important part is the family connection that he brings reinstills that idea of a family connection throughout the entire Warriors roster. We all remember during the initial part of the dynasty that entire Warriors team looked like a family. From that 2015 team to that 2016 team, even when Kevin Durant got there, they were playing like they would take a bullet for each other. Now you bring in Seth, not only are you getting that chemistry back, but you're bringing a guy who may be small, but can really just jump into the offense and be that instant three-point shooter that they need. Now we look at when Steph went down, again, they couldn't hit water falling out of a boat. But you bring in a guy like Seth Curry, all right, one of the most lethal three-point shooters in playoff history, as one of the only guys to shoot above 50% from three in a playoff series. So that's a big come up right there. But I still believe Seth is going to be the guy that you bring in that's going to provide that three-point shooting dearth when Steph isn't really hitting or isn't getting the job done. But on top of that, I just love the overall chemistry that he brings. Now, since he brings that chemistry, it's going to be extra important, especially with what other teams are doing around the league. And specifically, I'm talking about what the Lakers just did in bringing in Marcus Smart. Now, let's think about it a little bit. Marcus Smart, he hasn't had the greatest few years since leaving the Celtics, and that's understandable. He goes from the Celtics, where he's thriving, to the Grizzlies. He's supposed to be that stopgap for the whole Ja Morant situation, combining the suspension and injuries. It doesn't really work over in Memphis because he doesn't play a lot of games, he's injured a lot, then he gets traded over to Washington and doesn't really do much there because, let's be honest, it's hard as a competitor to be motivated to do anything on a dumpster fire franchise like the Wizards. The Wizards are on the fast track to nowhere, and they've been that way for a long time. They haven't made the playoffs in 4 years, and that was when they had Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Now it's just a plethora of nothing. They have solid players, but nothing to write home about. They have Alex Sarr, who, honestly, as the number 2 pick in a bad draft, isn't really saying much. They didn't get Ace Bailey, which is a problem, and they have a bunch of expiring contracts that really aren't going to do anything for them, which is surprising because you'd think the Wizards would find a way to trade these expiring contracts for teams that want to get under the second apron, but it hasn't happened. But I digress. Now, with the Lakers, he provides value in a way he didn't since he was with the Celtics. And that is by being a guy who doesn't need the ball to be effective. Now, we know Marcus Smart. He's a top-tier defensive player. He's going to cover a lot of the holes that Luka Doncic brings in his defensive game to the court. And by not needing the ball to be effective, that's just going to help the Lakers even more. And what worries me is it makes the Lakers more of a threat because it allows Luka to be Luka. I mean, you look at that team now, they got DeAndre Ayton, doesn't need the ball to be effective. Marcus Smart, point guard, doesn't need the ball to be effective. Luka Doncic needs the ball to be effective. And Austin Reeves, who doesn't always need the ball to be effective. He can set himself up for a corner three and sometimes create his own shot. So the Lakers, to me, are becoming a more and more dangerous team. And you think about it. All right, we've talked about the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Rockets as 4 teams that you really got to worry about for the Warriors. Well, now both of LA's teams are going to be a problem. So the Warriors really need to, I guess, consolidate their strategy and understand what they're trying to do. You look at the Jonathan Kuminga situation, that's sort of in limbo. Moves like these, like with Bradley Beal and Marcus Smart, you got to say, hey, all right, we got to start making moves, understanding what's going to happen this summer and what we need to do in order to get better going into next season. Now, we know that the Warriors core, Draymond, Jimmy, and Steph, are solid. For the next 2 years during that final championship window, they are good to go and they are ready. But they need those supplemental pieces to add on. So they got to start finding guys that'll add value to the roster and bring something to the table. And while that may be Seth Curry with his huge three-point shooting advantage, it's not only him that they need to bring in. They got to round out the rest of the roster before they continue and can really compete for the championship. However, because of Marcus Smart, that's also good news for the Warriors as it makes one of the biggest offseason moves inevitable. And by that, I mean the buyout of LeBron. Now, we know this has been an inevitability, but the signs just keep on adding up. I mean, we look at it, it's like, okay, LeBron's just too great of a player to let walk. But after this Marcus Smart signing, it really becomes inevitable. And it becomes inevitable because, all right, we look at Luka, he needs the ball in his hands to be effective. We look at LeBron, he needs the ball to be in his hands to be effective. LeBron has a no-trade clause on an expiring contract, which means anywhere you trade him, you're not going to get a good return. And any team that wants to trade for him is going to have to give up very large contracts. So that's just not going to work. And it makes that buyout inevitable. And like I said before, it's going to come down to days before training camp, Lakers are going to approach LeBron and say, hey, we're going this way. It doesn't include you. We want to buy you out because we need the space. And while they may find ways to, I guess, get some money back, it's not going to be a lot. And it's going to allow the Warriors to sign LeBron quickly and inexpensively. And you put LeBron on this Warriors roster, he fits out the starting 4. You got Steph at the 1, Jimmy at the 2, LeBron at the 3, Draymond at the 4, and whoever it might be that they sign for the 5. And I personally really like that moving forward because the more the Lakers move, the more likely it becomes a real possibility. And that team with LeBron might even be more dangerous than that 2016-17 team that went 16-1 in the postseason. And I say that because this is no longer a super team. This is an Olympic team. That's what's crazy because once you sign LeBron, all those other guys that sort of are waiting to get a decent contract are just going to jump at the chance to play with LeBron, signing at the minimum and just backing him up, backing the rest of the team up. And it's going to look like the 2008 Celtics. And if you remember anything about that 2008 Celtics team, they were virtually unbeatable, well, at least until the playoffs, where I think the first 2 series went to 7 games, and then they just conquered that last series in a way. But they are going to be a team to be reckoned with. And it doesn't matter how good your bench is. It doesn't matter how much size you have. They are going to be a force. So the bottom line is the Warriors really need to start ramping things up like they are going to get LeBron. It's time to make some moves that match their rivals. And that may not be bringing in a guy like Al Horford because he's getting a little up there, but it's solving that Kuminga situation, bringing in guys who want to be with the Warriors, fortifying the bench, and making things happen. Now, that's probably going to include signing Seth Curry. That's going to be trading Kuminga over to Phoenix to get some draft cap, or not draft capital, but some rotational pieces like Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen. That's going to include getting rid of some of the younger guys who don't fit within the championship window, like Moses Moody, Pods. That may be trading those two to bring on Nikolai Vucevic. But bottom line is they need to start, I guess, understanding what the plan is. Because right now it seems like the plan is to wait and see. And if you wait and see, time ain't coming back. Next thing you know, it's the start of training camp and you're still waiting and seeing what happens, and you just miss your opportunity. So if the Warriors are going to be that championship team, it's time to attack, solve problems, and then you could go back to waiting for LeBron to become a buyout candidate and then a free agent that you can sign. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And if you do have any trade ideas, feel free to comment below, because I'm looking for new ideas, and there's always a way the Warriors can get better. And as always, go Dubs.